Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. We are waiting for Facebook and YouTube to catch up. And as soon as we see a green light over here, we are ready to go. We now see orange. Mostly orange will start out and then it will be green. There we go. I just wait a few seconds to see if everything goes well. Are we on Facebook, Annemiek? Okay, let's just start with our trailer. Are you ready, guys? Here we go. And we are live. Hey guys, and welcome in our studio in Emmeloord. Today we have a very special episode of Digital Classroom. But first off, let me tell you guys something really cool. You know that every season of Digital Classroom we always think this is going to be the last one. Because let's be honest, we've been doing this for quite some time now. And keeping a show like this running, well, we need sponsors and we need big sponsors, because otherwise it just won't work, because this is, believe it or not, a pretty expensive thing to do. And thanks to BenQ and Rogue, I can already tell you guys that we are doing another 10 episodes. So in other words, we are just continuing like normal. But it also means that I need a little bit more of your input, because let's be honest, photographing models is hartstikke, that's Dutch. It's really cool, but to do it every month in a Digital Classroom stream, I think you guys also want to see something else, right? So just give me an email and just tell me what you guys would like to see, and we will make a Digital Classroom especially for that. But don't go like I want you to go on location, because that's a little bit difficult with all the cameras and gear. But today we are actually not shooting a model. Well, we are shooting actually 3 models, but they're not human beings, although some people think they are, including me, although Annemiek doesn't agree. Today we are shooting something that has a soul, that has character, that is totally unique, and that actually also brings out the best in people. Today we are shooting guitars. Not this one. Well, actually also this one. But most of all, we are shooting 3 different guitars. Now, one of the things about shooting guitars, at the moment I thought about it, I was going like, okay, but this has to be something that is also educational. And something where I can explain lighting to you guys. But it's also something that exactly freaks me out like crazy, for the very simple reason this isn't something I'm used to do. For example, we now have surfaces that are actually reflective. So how do you place your lighting? What do you do with your angles? Angle of incidence is angle of reflection, right? Let's see how that goes today. I'm going to show you some examples where, of course, it goes wrong. And then I'm fine-tuning everything to teach you guys exactly where to look for and how to prevent your shoots from going wrong. And let's be totally honest. When you want to sell something like a guitar, or do people sell guitars? Yeah, probably. I can't. I just can't. And let me put it this way. If you want to sell something, you can make a product shot, which is okay. And maybe you get $100 for the product. But if you make it a little bit more interesting, give it a little bit of lifestyle, give it that character, give it that soul, at that point your price will actually go a little bit higher, because people are engaged by the photo. Now think about a long way back the Marlboro Man. You know the Marlboro Man, right? Was the guy that smoked. It doesn't really matter what kind of brand he smoked. Everybody wanted to be the Marlboro Man. So that's why everybody bought, of course, cigarettes. Don't do it, kids. That's really bad for your health. So it's something that you put there that literally engages people to get that product. So today with the guitars, we are actually trying to also give a little bit of insight about how I think about stuff, how I style the stuff, but most of all, how I photograph it to give it something unique. Okay, so we're going to start out with our very first setup. And the very first setup is going to be a really cool guitar. It's actually a Dutch guitar, believe it or not. Let me just show you very quickly. Let me go to camera 2. That's the one. And it's a really nice one. It's an Egmont. It's 1964. Yes, 1964. And we're using a Line 6 Bochner amp. That's a tube amp. Now, a lot of people, if you are in the guitars, Line 6 is a little bit like using light meters. Some people hate it, some people love it. I have to be honest, I love tube amps, and this one screams, and it's a really nice amp. So normally I'm playing a Carvin V3 if you're interested on Marshalls, but this one, it's like, how do you call that? When you do a lot of things, we call it a 1000-pot, but it's a very versatile amp. So we want to do both. So I don't only want to shoot the guitar, I also want to do some close-ups of the amp. Let's say that we want to sell the stuff. So we want to make some images that will actually do great on eBay or Marktplaats or Craigslist or whatever. But we want to make sure that people want that product. Okay, so I think we are ready. Today we are with the skeleton crew. We only have Emmeloord and Brian here, Brian our son. So if the video work is a little bit shaky today, I'm sorry, but I think they will do fine because they know exactly what I want. So that's going to be cool. Okay, Emmeloord, are you going to take over from me?
Yes.
Cool, then I'm going to go to the set. And let me just switch over very quickly. And Brian, of course, is dropping his phone. Okay, going to switch over and then Brian is going to focus on me. Okay, so let me grab another remote very quickly to meter the light, and there we go. Okay, so one of the first guitars that we're going to shoot is the Egmont. Now, the Egmont is of course a really old guitar, 1964. That's even older than me. Can you imagine? It's when dinosaurs roamed the earth. So it's an old guitar, so I didn't want to do a lot of the fancy stuff. Now, we are shooting 3 guitars, and the 3 guitars I'm going to shoot have totally different characters. I'm not going to tell you which ones there are yet, but they're a very modern one, a very old one, and one that's literally very, very special and in my favorite color. So, first things first, when you look at a guitar, it's a shiny object. In other words, it reflects back lighting. That means if you set up your lighting and you use the same angle that you're shooting under, you will see the strobes in your guitar, meaning you get a very, very awful reflection. So you don't want that. So when Brian now, if Emmeloord switches over to the camera that actually shows you the whole set, you can actually see that I used a strip light from the side. And because I'm using it from the side and I'm shooting from that side, the angle of reflection will not be the angle where I'm shooting under. So in other words, I won't have any reflections. I'm using one light on that side that will actually give you an accent. But first I will turn this one off to show you what it does. And those accent lights really, really help, because those accent lights make sure that it looks interesting. Okay, first, let me meter the light on the guitar. And with the light meter, it's incredibly simple. You just hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. And there you go, 16.0. Now, that's, in my opinion, way too much. So let's go down to, let's say, F8. So I'm going to go down to 8 here, and that should be F8 also here. And normally remember that the setting on your strobe doesn't compute with your f-stop. So if the strobe is on 8, it doesn't mean F8, it's just a power output. But in this case, 8 should be approximately F8. Okay, F80, that's awesome. Okay, so guitar, amp. Now there's one thing that you always see in those guitar ads. And we had to find one on eBay. It's that little, I don't know what to call it. A perk? A rug. It's a rug. It's something that you put on the floor and that looks incredibly old-fashioned. So that's what we have on the floor here. And in all honesty, I don't like it at all, but it really helps the shot. And you're going to see that in a moment. Okay, so low angle. So I'm going to shoot from a lower angle up. And let's see what we can do. Now again, it's very important that I choose my angle right. So Emmeloord switch to the capture one, picture in picture. Cool. Now the first thing of course you have to do is make sure that everything fits in. So I'm going to sit a little bit more back, focus on the guitar, go to F8. And let me see what we get. Okay, now when you look at the image, let me just look back. It looks okay. But in all honesty, okay doesn't cut it for today. I want to make sure that the image really jumps out. I want to make sure that people will run out to the store and get that guitar if it's in a store. So let's add that accent light. And in all honesty, everything from this setup is built on that accent light. So the exposure now is correct on F8, but as soon as we start adding that accent light, you're going to see a huge difference. So let's turn on this one. Now, this one I'm not going to meter, I'm just going to guesstimate it. And I always call it a little bit like cooking. If I need a little bit more or a little bit less, we'll see later on. But I think I'm pretty okay as it is now. There we go. Now that accent light really spices up the shot. It just gives you a little bit more of that three-dimensionality, of course. A little bit. Okay, so let's try a few more. Let's just open up a little bit to give it a little bit of an overexposed look, a little bit more bright. And remember, the light meter is the correct exposure, but sometimes the correct exposure isn't what you want. You want to open it up a little bit more. So by opening it up a little bit more, you get a little bit more engagement in your shot, a little bit more dynamics, as you can see here. Really like it. There's no real reflection in the guitar. Of course, there's a little bit, but it looks pretty okay for me. I also like the stone back wall. There's only one thing that's missing, and that's actually, I have to spice it up just a little bit. So let's go down on the floor and just aim the camera up. Focus on the guitar. There we go. So this is from the ground up, and in all honesty, it's okay. Let's do a little bit higher up. So let's go from here. I constantly have the feeling to tell the guitar to turn around just a little bit and smile. Somehow it doesn't do. As soon as it does, run away. Because that's not good. If your guitar starts to smile, it's haunted, and you don't want a haunted guitar. Unless it plays by itself. That's awesome. Okay, so now when you shoot something like this, of course you also want to do it a little bit more extreme, a little bit more fun. And what is more fun than doing like, well, bodyscapes with a model? With guitars you can do exactly the same. So I'm going to sit on the floor and I'm going to find some areas that I really think are interesting. So I'm going to go really low. And of course we really love those pickups. So let's zoom in on the pickup. There we go. But now you see that horrendous reflection. And that's correct, because this is the angle of incidence, is the angle of reflection. So I'm shooting literally right into my camera. So how do you solve this? Very, very simple. You move around. So in other words, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to aim up, focus on that nice pickup. And now you can see that we have this beautiful rendering of light. Much, much better. Maybe do a little bit like this. Love it. Those F-holes are also really nice. So let's include that a little bit by zooming out. There we go. And of course we also want that bottom part in. And make it a real nice, huge guitar. Focus on the pickup. There we go. A little bit of lens flare from the back. Awesome. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, make a nice close-up of the knobs. No, that's not something I like. So don't do that. Maybe straight from here. Now the cool thing about this digital classroom, and trust me, we didn't prepare anything. So everything I'm doing now is literally something I'm making up as we go. Because I think that's the best way to learn. I can prepare everything, but then you guys don't see the whole process behind it. So if a shot doesn't look right, don't worry. We're working on it. Nice. Okay, of course we also want to do the headstock. So let's see what we can do with this. And again, watch the reflection. If I shoot from this angle, you will see a little bit of reflection, which I don't really like. But when I shoot from this angle, so against the light, there's no reflection. So you just choose which one you like. I will see that later on in Photoshop. Now, of course, we don't only shoot the guitar. This is one of the guitars. So let's take this one. Let's just leave it there. And let's say that I also want to sell that Line 6 amp. Some people will now go like, yeah, he's going to sell it. Don't worry, I'm going to keep it. But let's say that we also want some close-ups of that one. How do we do it? Of course, you can do a straight-on shot like we did before and use that. But why not go down and just really focus on what's cool? It's Bogner, right? And if you don't know, Bogner is like the guy that really knows how tubes work. So I want to make sure that that Bogner is in there. So we're going to sit down and I'm going to make sure, oops, that we have a really nice close-up of Bogner. Nice. Let's open this up. I'm going to go way beyond the lighting, but I really want something different. There we go. I love this. Okay. Okay, can't get any closer. It's not a macro lens I'm using. There we go. Okay, nice. Let's also do the line 6 logo. Like this. And I'm using the lens flare now from the strobe in the back to give me a really nice... Let's focus on the 6. There we go. That's awesome. Let's focus on the N or the E. Let me see which one I like best. Cool. Now, of course, we also want to do the knobs. I want to make sure that people also see what we can do with this amp. But make sure that the line 6 logo is in there. There we go. It's a little bit messy. Maybe also this. Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay. And of course we can do one from a very low angle up. This is why I love flip-up screens. And for example do this. Although I think this one is a little bit less interesting. Yeah, I think so. So let's zoom in from a low angle. Focus on that Bogner. There we go. Now of course we also want to see the back. So let's take the guitar out for now. And let's turn this one around. And let's just take some shots like this. And G12, it's very important that we have Celestians in there. Okay, need a little bit more light on that. And of course you can use a light meter, but in this case I'm just gonna manually just raise the ISO. Make sure that you see the Celestians. And there we go. And I love that lens flare. It really gives it something special. And if you know my work, you know that I do a lot with lens flares. Somehow I just love that. Let me see if we can do something more interesting like this. And I'm just using a very shallow depth of field just to give it something unique. And now you can see that the lens flare actually works against me. So let me see where the tubes are. There we go. Now this is less interesting, I think. I think the front was way more interesting. Yeah, okay. So that was set number 1. Let's just go into Photoshop and see what we can do to sell this baby. And then we're going to do set number 2. Guitar number 2, I mean. So, and Week and I are going to switch. And let me see if we have any questions on Facebook or YouTube. So let me first switch back to my camera. Okay. We call it a kleedje. Yeah, that's true. We call it a kleedje. Okay, let's first go through the images. And let's see which one I like best. So I'm going to go into split screen. Okay. And let's just go all the way to the front. Okay. Now, the first thing, of course, I want to make sure that the image really speaks to me, like this one. I really love this. Give it 5 stars. Now, this one it isn't that bad, actually. Now, I told you guys that I didn't like to have that reflection in there, but in all honesty, this looks pretty well wicked. So let's do 5. Also like this one. Oh, that's better. That's a bit too much. This is okay. I don't like this one. So again, I choose actually what I didn't think I would choose. Love the Bogner. Line 6 is cool. This one is better. Like this. I don't like the buttons, I like that one. And from the back, nah, this isn't interesting at all. Maybe this one, but then it would be way nicer if the tubes were actually on and it was powered up and you see all the light coming off, because that's what I love about tubes. But okay, let's see what we selected. So we have this one, this. I actually like that one less, I think. Let me see. Yes, I like this one less. So 0. Love this one, really nice. I like that one more. And I'm now just looking at which image really draws my own personal attention, although it's my gear. I just want to get that feeling. Okay, let's go into Capture One first, because do you need Photoshop all the time? I don't think so. I think in a lot of ways you can also do without Photoshop and just do it in your RAW converter. So let's, for today, if I don't need to take anything out, let's do it in the RAW converter. And that doesn't mean that I don't use Photoshop at all. It's just if I don't need it, I think the RAW converter will do fine and it will speed up your workflow a lot. The other thing is, you can do a lot in your RAW converter. Now, I'm using Capture One, but don't let that be any problem if you're using Lightroom or On One or whatever you're using, because it actually works in all the converters exactly the same. You have your exposure, contrast, and brightness. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to see what happens when I up the shadows. Well, I don't like that. Let me see what happens when I take out the highlights. And as you can see, my exposure was nailed on exactly the way that I want it. So this is cool. Let's add a little bit of contrast. And when I do contrast, I need a little bit more exposure. Let's do a little bit of saturation. Oh, I really like this. And let's do a little bit of clarity. And some structure. There we go. Now, as you can see here, we have a little bit of a problem in the top corner. And because I'm staying in the RAW converter, we're going to do that with our crop tool. Just going to crop it out. There we go. And I think we're already there. Now, of course, you have to realize that when you do something like this, sometimes you want a little bit more of a vintage look. We're going to go there in a moment. First, we're going to do this. So we're going to go for the next one. I can take the highlights off. No, don't like that at all. Just do it a little bit and a little bit of contrast. Add a little bit of saturation, there we go. And eventually add a little bit of structure and clarity. Cool, next shot. This one I think is a little bit too dark. Okay. Cool. And again, a little bit of saturation and a little bit of contrast. Same here. This is one that needs, I think, a lot of contrast. As you can see, it's a really old guitar, and don't even try to clean it up, it won't work. And they play like crap, by the way. So now, if you have a 64 Fender, that's awesome. A 64 Egmont it's awesome because it's a 64 Dutch guitar, but in essence, it's just a very cheaply made guitar, and it sounds great, by the way, but it plays like it's a workout. Let me put it that way. Okay, same here. Now we don't have that, of course, that saturation won't do anything because, well, you hardly see any saturation. It almost looks like a tweed amp when I do this. So we don't want that. A little bit of brightness. And let's add a little bit of structure and clarity again. Now when you do this on all your shots, you can just copy it, but for now I don't want to do that. And in this case I also want a little bit of vignette. I really like this. Okay, this one is absolutely one of my favorites. Just bump up the contrast a lot, turn down the highlights, give it a little bit of saturation to make it a little bit more brownish. There we go, that's already it. Same here, a little bit of contrast, a little bit of exposure, a little bit of shadow, and saturation and clarity. And we do the same thing here. Okay, and a little bit of set. Now, if you want to take that one out, that should be done in Photoshop, or you can do it, of course, here with the clone tool, but I think Photoshop has a better engine for it. So now let's say that I want to give those a really nice look. Now, what I'm doing now is very important because I'm not shooting, let me put it this way, at the moment I'm shooting to sell my guitar. Now, if I sell my guitar, I want to make sure that the buyer sees how the guitar looks. So this is a sunburst, so I want to make sure that it keeps a sunburst with brownish tints, right? You don't want to oversaturate color, so you don't want to give, let me put it this way, if the buyer gets the guitar, he doesn't open up the box and he goes like, what the heck is this? It's a totally different guitar. You want to make sure that it is what it is. That's a funny story, by the way. Anna Week, I think 2 or 3 years ago, ordered something from a mail order company, and it was a red scarf and a red shirt. She showed it to me. She said, Frank, do you like this combination? I was going like, wow, it looks awesome. It's the same color. It really fits well together. Get it. So she got it in. She opened up the sweater, and it was burgundy red instead of the red that we saw on the brochure. I was like, okay. Then she opened up the scarf, and it was a totally different color red. And you put it together, and it just looked horrendous. We sent it back, and you know the funny thing is? The seller actually said, yeah, a lot of people sell that combination back. So it's very important during a photo shoot that you make sure that your colors are correct. How do you do that normally? Of course, with an X-Rite Color Checker Passport. Now, you didn't see me using it now for the very simple reason I did it before the shoot, because I wanted to make sure that everything was set up, because this is something I don't normally do product shots, but I still think it's interesting to do. But normally you use an X-Rite Color Checker Passport. So anyway, do you have one here so I can show how it looks? Because a lot of people ask me about how does something like this work. So this is the version 2. And what you have is you have all these squares here. You take a picture and you create a profile. In Lightroom it's a simple export. In Capture One it's a little bit more complicated, but it's in essence it's the same. You create a profile, and the profile you use on your images. The cool thing about the number 2, that's the new Color Checker Passport, is that now finally we also have an 18% gray, which is awesome for calibrating your light meter. And of course we have still the white balance there. So, X-Rite Color Checker Passport, you can't live without it in your studio. Make sure you get one. They're very, very important and vital for what you do. Okay, let's go back to the split screen. There we go. Okay, so I want to make one series that's actually color correct. That's great. But now I want to make another series, and that's for myself. And I'm going to do this, clone variant. So I want to make sure that I'm taking the exact same image that I already have retouched, and that image. If you do new variant, it will go back to the original settings, and then you have to do everything over again. So I'm going to do clone variant. There we go. And now I know the number 2s, or number 1s, it doesn't matter. And we're going to give it a little bit of a look. Now, if you don't have Capture One, don't worry. Online for Lightroom and a lot of other stuff, like for example Alien Skin, we have our preset packs. And our preset packs retail for about 15 or 10 euros. So make sure you check them out, and they give you almost every look that I normally always use. So if you like my work and you think, hey, that tinting Frank uses is really cool, get one of those preset packs. Okay, so let's go to my presets and let's just try some out just for the fun. Let me see which one I really like. I want a more classic look for this one. Oh, really love this one. Or this, wow, look at this. Okay, so I now know which one I choose. Let me see. I'm still going to do some modifications in a moment. And it's not a lot that I changed, as you can see here. It just gives me a little bit more of that old look. Now for this one I need something a little bit more extreme, I think. I don't want to overdo it, but I want a little bit more of that tweed look, a little bit. Oh, this is also nice. Looks more like a Terminator amp. Let's do this one. And then just open it up a lot in brightness. There we go. Nice. And the cool thing about Capture One is that you can actually also fine-tune it a little bit here. So it's almost like a monochromatic shot. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And give it a little bit more blue in the shadows. There we go. Awesome. There we go. Love this. And I think we can copy that to all the other line 6 shots. do it to all the number to all the number ones. Okay. And this is why I clone my variants, so if I do something wrong, I don't destroy the original retouch. There we go, really like this. Okay, so now when I go back, the only thing I have to do is, if I see something that I don't like, is I just correct it a little bit. But overall, I think this looks absolutely stunning. I love it. A little bit more of a vintage look on the line 6. It's now a little bit more like harsh. There we go, look at this, wow. Love it. Really nice. Okay, so let me see if we have any questions. And this is the cool thing about Digital Classroom. If you have any questions, we have a chat box open on YouTube and we have a chat box open on Facebook. So whatever you guys want to ask, just ask. And we'll give you an answer to that, of course. We're going to set up the second shot. And this one is a little bit more extreme in the form of the guitar.
And also for you.
And a little bit more extreme for me, because I'm afraid of heights. And this one has everything to do with heights. Oh my, what I'm willing to do for you guys. So we're going to set everything up. So in between, we're going to show you a little bit of a trailer or a commercial, whatever you want to call it, because we do have to set everything up. And this is a live broadcast, so we need a little bit of time. I think probably 2 or 3 minutes. So, and in the meantime, enjoy this. And make sure you check out those videos, because they're really awesome. In this tutorial, we're actually going to show you that you can make great images with very, very simple tools. What to think about a tungsten light bulb. The LED panel. A ring light. Your standard flashlight. The Fresnel. The Westcott ice light. Smartphones. The Loom Cube. The chandelier. Christmas lights. We call them light snakes over here. This is one of the most creative lighting videos I ever created. I'm very enthusiastic about it. It's available now via our website. See the links. Wat is er dan? Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorhoff and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now, in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now, in this video, I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the Light Meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Okay, and we're back in our studio. We're not.
I'm back.
Anneweek is back.
Twee.
Are we now having the right camera, Anneweek?
Brian.
That camera or the high cam?
Yeah, die.
Okay, so we're back. I told you it can be a little bit flaky today because they know what they're doing. Anyway, so for this next setup, it's actually a very simple setup. It's the same we use for our glamour workshops a lot. We have some red stuff on the floor. Normally we have a model lying there and we take some shots. In this case, we don't have a model, but we have a guitar. And this one is also a very, very special one. I have to be honest, I loved rescuing guitars. We don't call it buying guitars because then Anneweek gets angry. I call it rescuing guitars. So I loved rescuing guitars, but the reason I loved rescuing guitars is because every guitar is different. Every guitar plays differently. And they all have their weak and their strong points. So when I wanted to do something with blues, I got a Fender Yngwie Malmsteen. If I wanted to do something a little bit more jazzy, I got an F-hole guitar. If I wanted to do some, you know the drift, right? And I wanted to do metal, I do one of the active pickups. And then I bought the next guitar. And this guitar destroyed my whole fun of buying guitars for the very simple reason, ladies and gentlemen, this guitar is the best guitar I ever bought. It's one of my favorites. It's stunning. It's a 1994 Ibanez Jam 777. It's the Steve Vai signature model, and Steve Vai is one of the best guitarists in the world. And this one is very special. You see a little dial in a moment, or a little switch, and that's because there's a sonic booster inside, which gives it even more versatility. This guitar can literally do everything from blues, jazz, to death metal, gore metal, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a metal guy, but it does everything. So, the reason I choose this setup, I'm using a strip light from Hensel, but inside the strip light, we're using a Light Tools grid. Now, Light Tools is a brand that creates grids. And they create grids custom made for almost every single modifier out there. When I switched over to Hensel, there were no grids from Light Tools, and I love Light Tools. So I emailed them, hey guys, I switched from Ellingham to Hensel. Do you have some grids for me? And they were going like, we're going to make one for you. So we measured everything up, and they created these beautiful, beautiful grids. And inside this one is the new version. And the new version is a 32% gray grid. So that means that the grid isn't black, what you're used to. It's actually gray. The main advantage of a gray grid is that it spreads out the light a little bit nicer, and especially when you use narrow grids, like I love to do, because I love to stare at light, it gives you less light loss. So in other words, you have more light output from your grid. And they have it in several forms. Now, Light Tools isn't cheap. It's a high-end brand, but trust me, when you buy cheap grids and you have your strobes like this, they will start to zag out. So they will start to make a little bit of a bump. And at that time, photographing will give you a little bit of a weird light spread. And with Light Tools, you know that they are just very, very straight, very, very tight. And it's a pop-up screen, so, easy pop. So that means that you just pop them together. They're really small package, and then they pop open and you put them in your strobes. Really cool stuff. Now, why am I talking so long? Because I don't really like what I have to do now. It scares the living daylights out of me. Now, I'm afraid of heights, and I have to be honest, in our studio we have these little plinths, and those are already terrifying for me, and now I have to get on a ladder. Yeah, so no more delaying this. Okay, let's get up. Don't laugh if I fall down. Okay, so I want to make sure that I shoot it from the top down, and I just love that red around the guitar. It really fits this guitar. And I'm now going to do it in a way that a lot of people do. So I'm going to take a shot overexposed. Going to close down the camera. No, don't like this at all. Close down even more. No, don't like that. Open it up. So as you can see, and this is the reason I'm doing this, I had this discussion with somebody, and he said, if you use a light meter, it doesn't really speed you up. You just take a few shots and that's it. Now, as you can see here, I'm taking 3 or 4 shots, and I don't like the outcome at all. Let's grab the light meter. And just show you how fast it goes. So I turn on the light meter. I'm going to walk around my model. Hello. Going to make sure that I hold it in the area I want correctly lit. 5.69. So that's about f8. So give it one click extra. So that's f8. Using a remote control for that. Okay. Let's grab my camera. Whew. There we go. Now you guys might think I'm making a joke with this, but I'm actually not. I really, really don't like heights. F8. Oh, sorry. I'm now shooting on F10. Okay, my mistake. And now you can see that now I love the look. So just use those light meters, guys. They're nothing evil. They don't suck the creativity out of you. They're just awesome. Okay, whew, that was it. Now let's see if we can do a little bit more with this one. And we're gonna do exactly the same. Gonna go really low angle on it. Like for example this, maybe a little bit higher. Make sure that sonic booster is showing up. There we go. Maybe go from the other side. Make sure that you see that green popping up. Nice, love it. Maybe a little bit higher up. There we go. Maybe under an angle. Love it. Okay, let's see what we can do in Photoshop with this one. And this one, we are going to use Photoshop. Okay, let's switch over with Anouk.
We should do a few questions first.
Okay, let's switch over to my camera. Okay, questions. Let me first do a few on YouTube. I'm reading. As a Sony man, what do you think about the new R4? Does that say enough?
Speechless.
It's absolutely awesome. I can't tell you how impressed I am every time Sony releases a new camera. Now, I'm a medium format guy myself. I really love the whole medium format look. I just love everything about medium format. But in all honesty, ever since Sony, I'm shooting less and less medium format. I would love to shoot it again, but every time I pick up a medium format camera, it's magic, it's superb. But then I look at my Sony images and I go like, dynamic range is better. It is razor sharp. The autofocus is super fast. I can use modules like these Photo Diox we're testing at the moment with these old manual focusable lenses that are actually now autofocus thanks to this module and the Sony camera. It's... What can I say? Those Sony cameras are just absolutely stunning, and every time they up the ante, like now 61 megapixels. A lot of people won't need it. I want it because for the very simple reason, I just love to zoom in on stuff, and I just love high resolution images. So awesome, yes. And I still have to test it. So Sony, please, come on. You know you want me to test one? Come on. Okay, any other questions? Hello from the UK. Hello, UK. Stuart asked me, I also would be interested to know your plan to purchase the A7R Mark IV. As a Sony ambassador, I think it's my duty to get one. And without a doubt, I will get one. And it goes without saying. Now, the reason I'm thinking is, would I advise somebody to buy it? And let me put it this way. When we went from the A7R2 to the A7R3, especially with autofocus and high ISO, there was a huge benefit. And I actually told people, please upgrade, because it's a better camera. It's faster, it's better in higher ISOs, and it just had a lot of stuff like the whole connection to your mobile workflow, like tethering is just more advanced in that camera. And the thing is, normally when you have a camera, you always go like generation to generation, and it's often very, very wise to just skip a generation, to just go like, okay, the difference isn't that much. And especially with the release pattern that Sony has, they're really, really fast. It's almost neck-breaking speed that they release new cameras. At one point, you might say, let's just skip one generation. And the God honest truth, I just can't give you that advice, because every time Sony releases something new, or it's the backlit sensor that is a breakthrough, or it is the totally new autofocus system, and now it's 61 megapixels with even better autofocus. It's just insane. So just upgrade. And at that point, just remember that the A7R III is still an amazing camera. It's one of the best cameras in the world. You should be easy to sell it. And I think a lot more people will navigate towards Sony in the future, because it's just amazingly what they do. Okay, Anouk, you had some questions on Facebook. Can you give them to me? Anouk is now running towards me because they're setting up the next set, and that's going to be a royal one. I already gave away too much. Oh, wait a minute, Anouk, here you have a microphone.
I have a loud voice, you always say. Is it really necessary, Frank? Is it on? Okay.
This is Anouk, and she has a really loud voice. Even it's known from Anouk that if you live in the UK, she doesn't need a microphone at all.
No. Well, let's continue with questions. Bart,
yeah. Let's
asked,
continue with questions, right, my dear?
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Is it possible to load XMP presets in Capture One?
Not as far as I know.
And the other question is a longer one.
In case people don't know what an XMP preset is, that is your settings from Lightroom or Photoshop.
Hey Frank, on the subject of any light will do, I was wondering if you have a favorite unconventional light source of all time, and what your least favorite conventional lighting source is.
Oh, okay. My most favorite light source of all time. Now, you might think that I'm going to say the sun. Now, I love my sun, but the sun itself, no. I think the Lume Cubes, without any doubt. Just put them on a selfie stick, and you have this amazing light source. And we recently did a whole workshop with the Lume Cubes. Remember, Anouk?
Yeah, they're so versatile.
And that's just crazy. And now they have this little, like a snoot and barn doors. It's just a little studio in your pocket. We're actually going to do a workshop series very soon. We're going to start, I believe, with Camera Nu and Camera Express in the Netherlands, where I'm going to explain the whole mobile workflow. So we recently bought an iPad Pro just for this series of workshops, and of course also for the future. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole workshop with everything that fits in your pocket. So your smartphone in pocket 1 and 2 Lume Cubes in pocket 2. Now it will look very weird if you look over the street and somebody sees you, because you have this big bump in your pants. Don't even go there. But in essence, you have your whole studio in 2 pockets. It's not wise, again, to put it in there, but you have your whole studio in your pockets. And I'm going to show different setups, which I'm going to shoot with a smartphone. In my case, the Huawei P30 Pro, but you can use any smartphone. And I'm also going to beam them straight to the iPad Pro, and going to do all the retouching there, including watermarking, social media, and whatnot more, without touching a computer anywhere. And it actually started because we love the Lume Cubes, and they have a new series coming out, and we wanted to do a workshop with just the Lume Cubes. And then I was going like, you know what, I'm shooting Lume Cubes with my Sony A7R III or 4 or whatever, and somehow it just clicked for me. Let's do a workshop all with smartphones, because we all have smartphones. And how often does it happen that on the street you go like, oh, I wish I could have taken a portrait, but I don't have a camera with me. You always have your smartphone with you. Take 2 Lume Cubes or 1 and a selfie stick. And 1, you can defend yourself in a very bad neighborhood because you can hit somebody with the selfie stick. And 2, you can create stunning images. Now, why that selfie stick? You put one of the Lume Cubes on the selfie stick and you can just hold it like this and light your subject. So, yeah, that's absolutely awesome. My least favorite light source. Oh, what is my least favorite light source?
The sun.
No, I love the sun. I don't have a least favorite light source, and this is the honest truth. I've been thinking like crazy about this, but
Candle? Fire?
I think a candle, for the very simple reason it doesn't emit enough light, but that's also the challenge, so it's not my least. Let me put it this way. You won't see me shooting with a candlelight only very quickly. For the very simple reason you need to bump up the ISO a lot, but even then a candle can be a great light. I don't have a least favorite light source. I have
the fluorescent lights in the ceiling.
Oh yeah, the fluorescent lights in the ceiling, those are really ugly. TL, so fluorescent tubes. Those are probably not that interesting to shoot with, but then again you can create some cool figures with it, and no least favorite light source. Light is light, and you know the thing is, I think a lot of people find light sources less interesting, and don't take this the wrong way, because they don't know how to control their lighting. As soon as you learn to control your lighting, this is why we do so many of those tutorials, and we give you guys so much in Digital Classroom, and quite frankly, just to teach you guys how to understand lighting. And the truth is, a lot of photographers are controlled by their lighting. Well, you as a photographer should be in control of your lighting. And I think if you understand the basics of lighting, any light source will do. Literally any light source will do, and create stunning images. And you know, the coolest part is, if you have a light source that you really don't like, focus on that light source for 1 week, create stunning images, and create images where you go like, wow, I never thought I would make it with that light source. And it will really make you a better photographer. Next question, Annemiek.
I'm not sure if the mic is still on. Can people hear me?
I don't know.
Is it this button? I don't know.
It puts the button up.
Up? Okay.
I'm sorry. I think you're gonna answer this question in the next setup. And the question is there a difference where to place the gel? Example, over the direct over the flash or over the modifier, like a reflector?
Okay, where to put the gels? First things first, if you use a color checker, passport, or any other sort of white balancing tool or color tool, you have to use that before you put the gels on the strobes. For the very simple reason, you want to make sure that that base is correct and that the strobe with the gel does exactly what the gel does. If you use a color checker afterwards, it doesn't make any sense at all, because it will actually filter out that color. The other thing is where to put that gel. The best thing, of course, is to cover your whole flash tube with the gel, fire it, and you can use whatever modifier you want. Big softbox, small softbox, and you can have a barbecue, and the fire department will come by, the ambulance, and that was the end of your freaking studio. Because everything will melt down, everything will explode, it will get fire, cheap smoke machines, whatnot more. So that's a huge problem. Now, I've pitched this to a few manufacturers, and I'm just ashamed that nobody actually picked it up. I would love to have these plastic domes that you can put over your modeling lights, like you normally have those protective domes. Just put them over your modeling lights instead of the protective dome, and make them a color. So now you can use whatever you want and whatever modifier you want. Up until those things are there, what you actually have to do is gel it away from the modeling lights and away from the flash tube. So that means in most cases, if you have a big softbox, you need a big gel. If you have a small softbox, you can get away with a smaller gel. We actually buy, can you give me one of those gel packs? We actually use these in our studio. And these are relatively cheap. I don't know, what do they retail for? 6-7 euros?
No, a little bit more. I thought like 20. I don't know.
Per sheet?
I will look it up.
Why did you buy such expensive stuff? Anyway, so those are relatively cheap, I wanted to say. Yeah, I was asking for that one. So anyway, so relatively cheap, and you can cover a wide area. Now we're gonna do in workshops, we're gonna do several, and probably you already see it in the behind closed doors. We actually taped 2 of them together over a strip light. So you have one part that's blue, one part that's actually red. And that gives you some just crazy results. The smaller gels that you get from your strobes, they only fit over your reflectors. So then you are limited to your reflectors. So most people are, but just get those bigger gel packs. So they're awesome. Next question, Annemiek. Pick up your microphone. Turn it on.
There are no questions, Frank.
That's the best one.
Please let me know when I'm in the picture.
Why?
Because I looked horrible just now.
Yeah, sure. You can see that we're having a lot of fun here. Okay, now I have a question on YouTube. Hey Frank, with the Sakonic 858D, what is your thoughts on the accuracy for HSS metering, please? It's pretty good. Now, HS, no, because that's highly unpredictable. Depends on your shutter speed, depends on your camera, depends on crop sensor or not, depends on your lens and a lot more. But HSS is pretty accurate. It does depend a little bit on which system you use. For example, the Photics we metered without any problems. And I heard from some people that if you have a really cheap strobe, it will vary a little bit. But on the other hand, cheap strobes, I don't want to say avoid them, but with cheap strobes, you just know that every time you meter something, there will be a slight difference because, hey, it's a cheap strobe, right? And Oh, on other news, by the way, very soon we're going to try a new strobe for me. It's the Nissin strobes. And we're going to test HSS with those, of course, too, because we do have some problems with the strobes we're using at the moment. Not the Hensels, of course, but with the other strobes, with the small flash, with Sony and HSS and ETTL. And Nissan should be a better solution for that. So I'm very curious to see if that's really true. They're sending me one of the strobes to test out, and if that works, awesome. So Nissan very soon in our studio, and of course, and quite frankly, we're going to test the heck out of them. And of course create some cool images with them. Okay, no more questions, so let's go to the split screen. And by the way, I hope you guys like this approach, that we have a little bit of a different digital classroom every time. Okay, so images. Let me go back to the first ones with the jam. And I just love that red and that flower pattern for the very simple reason it's just a crazy guitar. It's a crazy guitarist with a crazy guitar. Steve Vai, I mean. Okay, I already like this one. And this is a more like a simple setup. This one is the one where I actually shot it right. I think I like the standing ones better. Okay, like this one. This one is cool. Oh, this one is even better. No. Okay. So let's see which one we selected. Oh. So we have this one, take that one out, this one. And I think when I'm honest, I just love these all. I think this one is a little bit better than the other one. Should have cleaned the headstock too. Okay, let's go to Photoshop for the first one. First things first, I want to level it out just a little bit with shadows, because I know what I'm going to do in a moment. And just give it a little bit of a bump in contrast. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go to Photoshop. Okay, Command D. Control D, of course, I'm on a PC. Sorry. Okay. Let me explain a little bit the setup I'm using. Let me grab my camera very quickly. Let's switch over to full screen so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so for retouching, I'm using the Wacom Cintiq, but because the Wacom Cintiq is a great thing to retouch on, but it isn't really color accurate, I'm using the BenQ monitor on top, and I can't recommend those enough. Those monitors are absolutely stunning for their price point, actually for all price points. And in my opinion, if you want accurate colors, you need a monitor that's hardware calibratable, and these BenQs, they all have hardware calibration inside. So it's just a very, very good monitor. So that's what I'm using, and what I'm actually doing is I'm using my navigator on the top. So when you go to Windows and you go to Navigator, you can see that here, Navigator. Normally you see it really small on the top part in Photoshop, and we just blew it up on the second monitor. So that means that as soon as I let go of my pen, at that point the preview is updated, and I can literally see on the correct colors how my images look. Now both screens are of course calibrated, and color-wise they are very, very close to each other. But especially shadow detail, the BenQ just wins hands down. And shadow detail is something, especially my style of photography, that I really like. So that's what I have to do. Oh, more questions. I run mainly Godox AD400 Pro and the V1. I don't have any experience with Godox at the moment. We tried it a few times from students, look really, really nice, but I'm not using it myself. And in all honesty, a lot of people ask me for my opinion on a brand that I don't use. And you have those influencers that will tell you anything, like, no, you need to use this brand, or yeah, I read something about it, that's great. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to tell you anything that I didn't experience myself, that I didn't test myself, or that I don't use myself. So if you ask me something about a brand, I don't have a clue. And do remember that a lot of the stuff that we use and show, we actually have to buy ourselves. In the Netherlands, there are no companies that literally just send you stuff for free. Of course, we do get some stuff for free for reviews we do. And those companies we work with a long time, and we're really grateful for those guys. But most of the times it's a matter of getting a discount in exchange for a video. So I have to be careful with what I test. I would love to test every product on the market, but at that point Anouk will probably be angry and I can't rescue any more guitars. And in all honesty, I rescue guitars much nicer.
You were right about the foil thing.
Oh,
They were about €5.
I was right. That's the first time in my marriage in 22 years that Anouk actually tells me I'm right.
You were right, Frank.
Oh, awesome. That feels great.
So that's why we have so many foils.
Yep, because they're cheap and we're Dutch. That's a joke, by the way. Not really. Okay, so we have this guitar. I could have cleaned it up just a little bit better, I now see, but hey, you know, normally if you want to take a picture, just clean it up a little bit more. Okay, so why in Photoshop? I want to give this one a little bit more of a special look. I'm going to use alien skin exposure. I'm not going to sell this one. The other one also, by the way, not, but this one I'm just going to skip that whole selling part. We're just going to make something cool out of it. The first thing is I want to make sure that those details are really nice. So I'm going to make a background copy. I'm going to go to filter, and my absolute favorite filter for this is Topaz Studio. Now, you can get Topaz Studio for free, and if you want the pro version, which I highly, highly recommend, you have to pay a little bit of money to Topaz, and it's absolutely worth it. And then you get the pro version, and you can twinkle around with all those settings, and it's really cool. Okay, I'm going to just use my favorites, and I'm going to use my pop. There we go. And just press OK. So what it does, it will give my image a little bit more of a pop. So the wood structure will be a little bit nicer, but it will also show a little bit more of the detail in the cloth, as you can see here. Now, maybe I don't want it on the body of the guitar, so I can use a layer mask. So use layer mask, reveal all, and just take it out on the body. Oops. I'm sorry, guys. Let's take it out of the body. There we go. And do remember, this is a guitar from 1994, so all the bumps you see, this is a real used guitar. Just keep it that way. And they will be a little bit danged up, and that's part of the charm. Don't clean them or whatever. I wanted to clean the tremolo, and they told me don't do it because it will devalue the guitar like crazy. And they are right, I guess. Okay, so, and as you can see here, before and after, I really like that look. Okay. Now, let me just fine-tune this a little bit. Now, we all know adjustment layers, right? And adjustment layers are really cool if you want to make, for example, something black and white. But did you ever try an adjustment layer to enhance color? Watch this. Go to Layer, go to New Adjustment Layers, and go to Black and White. Now, black and white is not what we want to do with this image. But if we use black and white on an blending mode, that's actually luminosity. Now we have a very, very powerful tool to actually fine-tune the colors. Now you have to remember that every color has 3 coordinates, an X, a Y, and a big Y. The big Y is luminance or key. The smaller X and I are actually hue and saturation. Now if you lower the luminance, the saturation will be bumped up. So that means that the colors will get more saturated. The cool thing is if you lower the luminance, the saturation gets more, but without clipping that channel. Remember that, without clipping the channel. So that means that of course you can bump up your saturation, which I'm going to do in a moment because I want that green to really, really shine. But by using an adjustment layer for this on luminance, I can actually just trick it in, and then afterwards, when I bump up the saturation, it doesn't clip. So, watch this. I'm going to lower the luminosity on red or higher. Well, of course, in this case, we're going to make it much lower. Not too low. There we go. The greens, I want a little bit darker too, or brighter. No, we don't want it fluorescent. We just want it a little bit darker. There we go. Now, there's no blue in there. There's no cyan in there. So, oh, there's a little bit of cyan on top. Let me see. There we go. And I'm just going to move those to see what happens. Okay, before and after. You might say, hey, that's a little change, but trust me, it's a big one. Okay, let's go to Layer, Flatten Image. And now I can actually just pump up my brightness of the color. So in other words, the saturation, what you normally do. So let's make a duplicate layer so you guys can really see what I'm doing. So go to saturation. And now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do master. I'm going to go for the reds, but I'm not going to go for the reds. I'm just going to click here. So now, although I chose reds, I actually now triggered one point. And now I'm going to up the saturation there. There we go. It almost bleeds off the screen. And it doesn't clip. And that's why I used that adjustment layer before. Of course, you can change the hue. No, don't do that. Let's keep that at 0. There we go. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the greens. But just to show you, let's do cyan. And I'm going to select green. And now you can immediately see that it goes to green. And just bump up that saturation there. There we go. Now you might think when you see this like, oh my God, Frank, that looks awesome, but it's way too much. It isn't. That guitar almost looks fluorescent. It's really, really a bright guitar. So I really like this. I like this a lot. And just press OK. And before and after. Really nice. Okay, layer, flatten image. And now the only thing I want to do is go into filter, alien skin exposure, my favorite tinting program. And also for alien skin exposure, we have some really cool presets. Oh, let me drag that up to the monitor so you guys can see it. This is why I have alien skin exposure topaz all on that second monitor to make sure that you guys actually, that I actually see what I'm doing. Okay, black and white conversion, we don't want that. The cool thing about alien skin is that you just hover over the presets and it will just show those presets. Oh my, look at this. This is cool. Before, after, I love this. But I want the greens back. So let's go to green. And you see here I lowered the saturation on green in my presets. So I'm just going to up that a lot. And just lower the luminance of green. And you see that now immediately I can trigger that balance between being too bright or a little bit less. Okay, let's go to vignetting, because I want a little bit of a vignette there. Let me find the vignetting first, sorry guys. There we go. Let's just, oh, no. There we go. Love it. And the roundness, let's change that a little bit. There we go. Okay. Press apply. Now you might wonder like, hey Frank, the headstock is a little bit too dark and I want to see it when it runs, so then I'm going to make my choice. Yeah, it is a little bit too dark. So let's just layer flatten image. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to make a duplicate layer copy. I'm going to zoom in to 100%. Ooh, this looks really nice. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to make a layer mask and I'm going to do a hide all. And I'm going to paint this in with white. Now at the moment you don't see anything yet. So, and now on the bottom part, what I can do is actually erase my brightness. Oh, sorry, I have to do it the other way around. That's my bad. So just erase the brightness. There we go. Okay. Few fit on screen and do it before and after. There we go. Just give it a little bit of extra. And of course we don't want it everywhere. So just go back here, go back to black, go all the way up. And there's a little bit too much on top. So we're going to take that out. There you go. That's the cool thing about layer masks. It's the first thing I teach people when they want to know anything about Photoshop. Learn and master layer masks. Okay, really like this. Let's do layer flatten image and just store this. File close. Okay, go back to capture one. And now the other ones, let's do those just again in the raw converter. Bump up the contrast. Could be an 80s hit song. And just do this. And I can actually copy this for all the shots. It's my base. Just copy and apply. There we go. And now just tweak the colors a little bit. Again, the same thing that we did before. Make it a little bit warmer. Maybe bump up that red a little bit in a moment. There we go, I really like this. And then give it a little bit of clarity, a little bit of structure, not too much, don't overdo this. And just give it a little bit of a vignette. There we go, copy that to all the shots. Adjustments, copy and apply. And there you go. So now we have this one from Photoshop. Sorry, this is not the one from Photoshop, excuse me. These are the ones from the raw converter. If you want to see the one from Photoshop, I have to go here to my selects folder, output, sorry, and this is the one from Photoshop. And because it's a raw converter, I can still fine-tune this, of course, and just say, for example, I want a little bit more brightness in the shot and protect the highlights a little bit, or not, whatever you want. Okay, let's go back to capture folder. And I'm pretty satisfied with this. Yep. Okay, so for the next setup, we need a little bit of time again, because this is a really, really special setup. It's a really special guitar for me, and I'm going to tell you a little story about it in a moment. And this one is literally a royal treatment. So we're going to need to set it up. We're going to mix light sources. We're going to use gels. We're going to use smoke. We're going to use the guitar. This one is really, really tricky. Again, I never shot like this before. If it fails, you can have a laugh, but probably we'll just save it later. So we're just going to try it. But this one is the one that freaks me out for 2 reasons. And I'm going to tell you that in a moment. Okay, now you see me working with Capture One today. Let me just show you a video we made on Capture One. And again, all those videos you can buy on our website. I'm going to give you the link later. So, there we go. Great shot. Hey guys, I'm Frank Doroff. I'm the writer of the best-selling book, Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, during my workshops, I get a lot of questions about people. What about raw developing? How to set my camera? Do I need Adobe RGB? Do I need sRGB? There are many questions out there. And the best thing to start with is use Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. That's where you start. But after that, if you want a little bit more quality, if you shoot a lot of tethered setups, Capture One is actually one of the best programs out there. It isn't the best in library modes. It isn't the best in map modes. That's where we still use Lightroom. But Capture One is an awesome raw developer. Now, what is a raw developer and why is it important? Think about the old days when we had film. The choice of chemicals and the choice of film made a huge difference. The same film developed in different chemicals gave you totally different end result. The model was still the model, the landscape was still the same landscape, but you get more definition from one chemical. Or you get a little bit more detail or a little bit different colors. Also depending on the process. And that actually is the same thing for the new digital sensors. A digital sensor records a raw image. There's no color space attached to a raw image. It's the raw image. You have to attach a color space yourself. This is also one of the most heard problems during, for example, social media stuff. How do I set my camera? If you shoot JPEG, choose sRGB or Adobe RGB. If you shoot RAW, it doesn't matter because the RAW file is the RAW file. There's no color profile attached. That's what you do in your RAW converter as soon as you go to JPEG or TIFF. And most workflows, of course, will be TIFF 16 bits because then you have a lot of stuff to work with. And then you can use the bigger color spaces. But hey, I'm getting way ahead of this stuff. I don't want to teach you too much because this is a promo for a new video I created. Now, next to Lightroom, one of the most famous and best known RAW developers is, of course, Capture One. And Capture One has had a turbulent experience for me. It started when I shot medium format, I needed Capture One. And now when I shoot Sony and even when I shot Canon, I quickly found out that the raw developing of Capture One was awesome. But a lot of people have a lot of questions about how does it work? With Lightroom, I know how everything works, but how does it work in Capture One? And that's why we created this video for you guys. It's a total walkthrough about how I set up Capture One to work with Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop because those are still my main programs. Capture One is used for raw developing and it does such an amazing job at that. So check out the video on Capture One raw developing workflow from me, Frank Doroff. And I'm sure if you have any questions about Capture One, they will be answered in that video. Hey guys, welcome in the Netherlands. My name is Frank Doroff. I'm a Dutch photographer and we're in front of our studio. Now we all know about shooting portraits, right? Or shooting fashion. In our class on Kelby 1, we're actually gonna do one step further. How to add a little bit of motion to really spice up that shot. How to use water effects. How to use gels, how to use lens flares. Those are absolutely amazing. But also how to retouch those shots in a really quick workflow. but most of all, it's gonna be about lighting. It's gonna be about coaching that model. So why should you watch this class? Well, for the very simple reason. There are so many photographers out there, there are so many images out there, and you want your images to show up on top, of course, because they're more interesting, they're more evolving, they're more storytelling. There's so much you can do that is actually pretty simple. Instead of just putting a model in front of the camera, just change a few things over with lighting or coaching or motion, and you can really make a huge difference without doing anything else than just watching this class. We just jam-packed this class full of information about shooting portraits, and it's only on Kelby 1. You're gonna love it. Yeah, Kelby 1, don't forget about it, because those classes are really, really cool. Okay, so the next one, and I wanted to tell you this one is really special for me. And special is actually a little bit of the word joke. I'm gonna shoot a guitar that has haunted me for my whole life. I wanted one, but they were not affordable at all. And I didn't want to spend that much money on a guitar. Now, a few years ago, the guitarist which I'm talking about started his own company, and they started producing these guitars as a perfect copy. It's not a perfect copy, but they have a perfect copy and they have a cheaper version. And of course we got the cheaper version because, in all honesty, I don't want to spend 4,000 euros on a guitar that's really a signature guitar. The reason I love this guitar is because the Steve Vai guitar is very, very versatile, but there's only one guitar in the world that can top it in versatility. And that's the guitar we're going to shoot now. And here we have the smaller version, and we also have the bigger version. So it's a red special Brian May guitar, and the reason it's very special is because Queen is very special for me. My whole life has been Queen, Queen, Queen. We actually called our son Brian after Brian May, and I even like Hot Space, the album. Imagine that. Maybe the only person in the world that likes that album. So this guitar, I want to do something special with it. So the first one we did a more flat look. Flat, semi-flat. The second one we put in that nice red stuff that actually fits the guitar. So what do you do with a green guitar? Well, of course it needs the royal treatment. And for the royal treatment, what we want to do is we're going to use a snoot on the guitar, and I'm going to use continuous lighting, we're going to use smoke, and we're going to use colors. But I'm going to build it up step by step. So every step you're going to see exactly the process. Now sometimes you might wonder, Frank, it doesn't look right, you miss something. Bear with me. As soon as everything clicks together, in my mind at least, it works. So let's hope that my mind actually also works in reality.
Should we do some questions?
Oh, do you have more questions? Yes, please do. You are on camera, Annemiek, so do some questions.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
Brian is laughing. Should be funny.
Okay, guys, are you on my side or I don't even mind. Okay, we're gonna take this little guitar and we're gonna do it. Oh, you are amazing. Okay, so there we have the setup. So it's a very, very simple setup at the moment. We're only using one light source. I'm using a small Fox amplifier. I don't have the big one, AC30. I would love to have one, but they are very, very expensive, and in all honesty, I just love the Carvin I'm playing on now. So the big one, the smaller one, and as a light source, let's just start out with only a spot, so a snoot. And let's just see what happens. So I have to keep it very, very low in power, because in a moment we're actually going to use tungsten light as an extra light source. So I have to make sure that everything fits in. Okay, now I have to guesstimate this a little bit. Normally we ask the model, can you see through the grid? Can you see through the grid? No answer. It would be freaking scary if he would answer. He, see, whatever. So I'm just going to guess. 2.07 over here on the body. 2.04, so here is the hot spot. That's exactly where I want it, so I'm lucky. So let's go 1, 2, 3. That's 2.8. Okay. 2.8 ISO 100, and that's of course a little bit too less. So we're going to go to 5.6 ISO 400. If that went too fast, ISO 100 2.8. ISO 200 would be f4, and ISO 400 would indeed be f5.6. So let me just take one shot very quickly and just see how it looks. Now I also put a guitar cable in, which at the moment, when I look at this, I don't like at all. So we're probably going to take that one out of the equation in a moment. Oh, and we pressed the wrong button. Let me very quickly.
I got it.
Are you sure?
Ja, I got it. Ik heb gewoon
Let me see what you're doing.
clear layer gedaan. Ik heb het nog gedaan.
Oh, don't do that.
No, sorry.
Don't press buttons. You're already pressing mine. Okay, so in all honesty, I don't like the guitar cable. So we're going to take that one out. Sorry. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. Now, when I look at this shot, I can see the guitar, I can see the fox, but it doesn't work yet. So let's turn on the fluorescence. Sorry, the tungsten. Brian, can you turn that one on? Cool. Which camera, Anouk?
The other one.
The other one. Which one? Okay. So what I've done now is I'm actually adding tungsten light on the back. Now I want to make sure that the tungsten light burns in. Now I'm shooting 5.6 ISO 400. For that tungsten light, it doesn't matter that the strobe is a pulse. For that tungsten light, I need my shutter speed. Because the longer the shutter speed, the more that light will burn in. And I also see that maybe we just move this a little bit. Okay, let's just try it for now. So I'm keeping it at 125th of a second, ISO 400. And as you can see, it doesn't really work. It just looks terrible. So let's go down to 25th of a second and see the difference. There we go, this looks way nicer. Let's go even further down to an eighth. That's nice. And you have to be really stable for this. Okay, I love this. It's maybe a little bit too much. So let's go up just a little bit. Let's go to 25th. And let's see how far my strobe is actually down. Oh, 6.2. I have a lot more range down. So let's go to 6.2. Let's go to 4.2. That's 2 stops down. So what I can do is I'm going to actually shoot on 2.8. So the strobe should be okay now, but the brightness of the light should be much better. So now I can actually shoot 2.8, 1/80th of a second. So I'm controlling my backlight now with the shutter speed. The strobe stays the same.
We see the stand.
Yeah, I see the stand too, so we're going to fix that later. Cool. I really like this. So we see the red special, we see the smaller red special, we see the Fox amplifier, we see the back. Let's move the tungsten light a little bit more forward. So we're doing a little bit of set styling now. There we go. This one we have to aim a little bit more this way because of the reflections. So I think this is nice. It freaks me out, so let's turn that away from the guitar. There we go. And let's add some color from the back. Now I'm going to do this really on the lowest setting. So on this side we have red. So. And on the other side we have blue. Now let's turn this one on. It's on the lowest setting. There we go. So add a little bit of blue from this side. And Anouk pointed out to me that we see the stand. So let's move this a little bit further back. And we have more than enough power to do this. There we go. And let's just try it. It's not going to work immediately. I'm not making any, how do you call that? Wishes. I'm pretty sure it's going to suck the first time. That's the cool thing. Because you can change. And this is also the nice thing about shooting guitars instead of models. You can take your time. As soon as they run out of the studio, yeah, that's scary. They don't need to pee. Oh, love it. Look at how those gels really change the whole look of the shot. Wow. I already like these shots. Wow. Okay, but of course, when we have Queen, we need smoke. So Brian, Mr. May, can you give a little bit of smoke behind the guitars? Oh, Anouk, did we put something on the smoke alarm?
No.
No, just wait a minute. We're going to put something on the smoke alarm. Anouk, where are you going? For the moment, Anouk is gone. So let's have a little me time with you guys. No, I'm just kidding. Anouk is picking something up for our smoke alarm. Because if we use smoke, we want to make sure that the alarms don't go off. For the very simple reason, we don't want the alarms to go off. Sounds obvious, right? Okay, do you have it? Take the letter. Oh, guys, you should see this. Oh, you probably do on the high cam.
No.
Oh, you were smart. Okay. And the smoke alarm is much more to the back. There we go. Awesome.
Don't make me laugh.
Yeah, it fits. Okay, Brian, give me a little bit of smoke behind the guitar. And stop. Nice. And now one puff of smoke behind the guitar and immediately in front. Stop, 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 wait. And now a little bit on the front, on the floor. Okay, this is already too much. As you can see, as soon as you have too much smoke, it all just goes and you can't shoot anymore.
It all just goes up in smoke.
Yeah, it all goes up in smoke. So let's do a really low angle. And I love the reflection of those tungsten light bulbs on the floor. Okay, let me see how that looks. Looks pretty cool, but I want to see a little bit more of the headstock of the guitar and a little bit less of the smoke. And with smoke, it's always a waiting game. You have to wait until the smoke is correct. Love it. Okay, let's try a few different angles for now. Let's, for example, try from here. Nice. And of course, again, here you can do some close-ups. So, for example, the Fox logo with, of course, the red special in the back. Maybe even do it like this. Or, this is cool. Maybe even do it all the way on the floor like a wide-angle shot. And then just Photoshop the top.
Hey Frank, can you put the little guitar away for a while?
Why?
It's I want to see it without.
You don't like the little guitar?
Not really.
Okay, then we're going to take the little guitar out, Brian.
It's too much.
It's too much? Oh, buy little guitar. Okay, Brian, can you give me a little bit of smoke behind the guitars, behind the backdrop, only on the backdrop? A little bit more, and especially on top. Yep. And now a little bit on the floor. Okay, that's already too much. So we're going to wait for it to clear a little bit. Again, with smoke, it's really just waiting, guys, till it clears up and then you can shoot. Still too much. There we go. Now it's going better. Oh, there we go. Oops, that was my mistake. Nice. I really like this. Okay, let's overdo it a little bit on the blue. Let's make it darker on the floor and let's just put the blue on the bottom and up. Let's see what happens. So we're gonna make this. This is the cool thing about boom arms. Gonna turn it all the way up. And then just tilt it down. There we go. And then move the strobe. let's go down even more. And just give it a little bit more power. Okay. Brian, in a moment, if the power is too low, can you up the power just a little bit? But I'm going to tell you if. Oh, love it. Nice. Okay, Brian, I need a little bit of smoke here in this front area. That's why we have 2 smoke machines. Okay, just push and stop. And just wait for the smoke to clear. Oh, that's way too much smoke. As you can see now, the blue is very, very dominant. That's why I needed a little bit more on the other side. There we go. Now it's getting there. Love it. Now let's do the same thing with the red one. And let's just move that down a little bit. And just give it a kiss of light. So just a little bit. Okay. A lot of people ask me about these boom stands because they are so incredibly expensive, but oh man, they're worth every little cent because you can do so much with your strobes.
Those stands don't exist anymore.
Oh, those don't exist anymore? Okay. Then just look at what Manfrotto does. Manfrotto makes great, great stands. And I'm going to give it a kiss of light. So I'm going to go here from the side and use it like a sort of accent light. So I'm just going to go over the floor. And just try if we can hit that Fox and that Brian May guitar just a little bit. There we go. This should be interesting. Oh, I really like this. A little bit too much smoke, so let's clear that. There we go. Okay, Brian, can you take the power cable off? Otherwise I have to Photoshop them off. Okay, cool. Thank you. Nice. Okay, Brian, I need a little bit more smoke on the back side. So just fill it up on the back.
A lot or
on the back. Just try a few bursts. Okay, stop. Now from the other side. As you can see, I'm looking also for angles. This is nice. I don't like the blue in the back. It just creates a really nasty blue spot on the top. So I have to make the smoke disappear there a little bit. There we go. Brian, can you just give me a hint of smoke over the floor? Just a tiny, tiny bit. Yeah, that's about it. There we go. You hardly press the button. Do it a little bit more. From a little bit closer. And stop. Okay, already too much. But you get the idea, right? Okay, final shots. Let's do one more really close by of the Fox. And with the Brian May guitar in the back, because that combination is of course very, very well known. And beware, do you see that now we have that little spotlight there? So what I can do to take that out is actually angle the guitar a little bit to make sure that we don't have that angle of reflection is angle of incidence. So there we go. And this is much better. And a low angle. Awesome. Cool. And of course what you could try, and I don't know if that's going to work, is actually from this angle and just use those tungsten light bulbs. So I'm still going to focus on the Fox. I'm going to make it more like a studio setup. Brian, can you angle the guitar back to me again? And I have something really weird in front of my lens. What is that? Oh, that's the guitar stand. Brian, can you take it off the guitar stand and take the guitar stand off and just hold it on the floor with your hands? So just take that out. And just put it on the floor like that, a little bit more that way. So you can see the fox. More. That way. Tilt it. There we go. Now we'll see a big hot spot, so tilt it forward and to the back. So the bottom part to the back, tilt it forward. There we go. That's awesome. Okay, let's get a little bit more of the tungsten light bulbs in, and let's just turn that. Very well spotted. Okay, a little bit more back, Brian. There we go, a little bit more forward, kantelen, juist. A little bit that way. Yep. Awesome, let's try it without the tungsten lights. Is my guitar falling apart? Nice, love this, keep it that way. Can you tilt that light, that red light, a little bit more towards me? I'm testing the flexibility of my son. Oh, I love this. And again, you don't need to see the whole guitar just to know that it's the Brian May version. Perfect. Love this. I think this is the one. Let's continue with that one. There we go. Awesome. This is it. Love it. Okay, we got everything we needed. Let's go to Photoshop. Or the raw converter, depending on what we want to do. I think Photoshop.
Put it in the stand, Brian.
Oh yeah, put that one in the stand. That's my dearest. Okay, very cool. Let's switch back to cameras. Okay, let me first see if we have any questions over here. What kind of smoke fluid do you use? It looks like I have the same machine, but with my smoke is a lot thinner. You can get different sorts of smoke. You can get smoke that is really, really like low on velocity. You know what I mean, right? It's thinner. And you have smoke that's a little bit more fatter. And we use the medium part. I think you can mix them together, but don't tell people that I said that. Let me see. Great tutorial. Thanks a lot. Do you have any tips for setup with two cheap continuous lighting softbox? I'm struggling a bit to get reflections on back Les Paul. I love your name. Ingwing. Ingwe? But then a Les Paul? No, can't be. So, are you Momstein? No. Anyway, I'm just kidding. The thing with reflections on a black Les Paul is very, very difficult. What you saw me doing here with the Red Special was actually turning the guitar. And that's the only way. You have to remember, angle of incidence is angle of reflection. You can't repeat that more than enough. And by using a softbox, you are making it a little bit more difficult for yourself because you have a bigger light source. So I'm using a snoot, so I'm having a really small light source, so it makes it a little bit easier to turn around. But also with a big softbox, it should be no problem. Just remember, angle of incidence is angle of reflection. So make sure that it's not under the same angle that you are shooting in. Under the same angle, meaning if you shoot that way, the light shouldn't be this because it hits your camera. You realize that once you get your guitar out, you have to play a piece for us. I knew that question was coming, and I'm going to tell you already, I'm not going to do that for one very simple reason. It's not that I didn't prepare, of course, because I can play by now. Let me explain this for people that don't know the inside story. When I was younger, like 17 or 18, I really went totally ballistics on guitar playing. I think that my whole youth was based on playing guitar. If I had to go to the doctor for those little pinches in your finger, I always said, can you not do it in this hand, but in this hand? Why? Because I want to play guitar. Yeah, but in an hour you can... No. Don't do this hand, only do that hand. I lived and breathed guitar. And the thing is, at that time, if I wanted to play guitar and I wanted to learn guitar, I actually had to get magazines from the States. So that means Guitar Player, Guitar World. And I still remember, Let me just turn this down just a little bit. There we go. Otherwise the audio is probably a little bit too harsh and it clips. Is this better? I think so. Okay, so when I started out, I still remember a Guitar World with Steve Vai on the front, holding a guitar in front of his face because he was tired of every year being best guitar player in the world. Now, those magazines I literally ate up. If there was a jazz segment for a whole month, I studied jazz. Because remember, at that time we didn't have internet. We still had to do everything by magazines. And they had to be sent in. So sometimes a month I missed the magazine. So yeah, I couldn't learn. So I had to do the other stuff. I think when I was 18, I started teaching local kids. And I think when I was 21, I stopped teaching and I actually did some other stuff. We got a company and slowly I stopped playing guitar. I think at 22 or 23, I actually stopped playing. Last year at Photoshop World, Scott Kelby told me the night before, tomorrow you're going to be with us on stage and you're going to play guitar, because he heard some old demos of us and he thought I was a great guitar player. So I didn't have any choice. So he gave me a Paul Reed Smith to my room and just started practicing. Now there are some pictures online where you can literally see that the blood is coming out of my hands, because playing guitar, if you've never played guitar, I can tell you one thing. I think it's one of the instruments that will literally hurt you the most to learn, because it's like playing with razor blades. It's literally, for the guys who know guitar, I'm playing 009s to 042s. So those are literally really, really, well, they hurt. Let me put it that way. And at that point, I really fell in love again. And I think 3 months later, I took everything from our attic and I started playing again. And this is an eye-opener. Nowadays, we have internet. We have like recording studios in our computers. I bought an iPad Pro, and one of the main reasons to get the iPad Pro was, of course, Photoshop is coming out on the iPad Pro. We have Lightroom CC, LumaFusion, which is absolutely awesome for video. All our video now we are doing in LumaFusion because it's just faster than on a laptop. Imagine this, an i9 laptop, LumaFusion on the iPad Pro is faster. But one of the things that I love about the iPad Pro is GarageBand. You just plug in your guitar and you play along with autoplay instruments, with drummers that have their own beat. It's insane compared to what we did in the past. So my learning process is actually pretty fast. After more than 17 years of stopping playing, I actually picked it up in about 3 or 4 months again. So when you want to see how I play, just go to one of the episodes from the guitar project. I will leave a link in the description below. And you can see me playing a part at the end of that episode. And in all honesty, when I look now back at that episode, I go like, oh, that's sloppy, that's slow. So it's a continuous process. And, well, let me put it this way. Every day we learn, and just playing guitar is absolutely awesome. Loved seeing your gig at Photoshop World last year. Well, trust me, that was an embarrassing performance, because that was the first time in 17 years I picked it up. You should see me playing now. And maybe in Vegas we're going to do it. I'm talking to Rick about it, and let's see if Scott also is willing to do it. Let me see. I can't play myself, but was good at upsetting my neighbors. Oh yeah, that's without a doubt. Just turn on to Infinity and you're on. Annemiek, do you have any questions on Facebook?
No.
No? Okay, let's look at those images. Now, of course, when you shoot a Red Special, it's an iconic guitar. When you have the Fox logo in there, it's an immediately giveaway from, hey, that's a combination, Fox and Brian May. That's like, yeah, that's like ice cream and liking it. I don't know where I got that one. Sorry, guys. It's like butter and scotch. But you know what I mean. It just belongs together. Let me put it that way. Okay. I just love this image already. So let's just go back. I don't like this. I didn't like the tungsten light in front of it. Somehow it takes away from the cleanness of that shot. I do like this one too. But I don't like my guitar stand there. That's why I took it out. And this is something that you will find out later and you go like, ah, man, I hate that guitar stand in that shot. But hey, it's there. Should just tell people it was intended that way. Okay, let me see. You see that reflection in the guitar? That's bad. So I don't want that. I didn't take any notice there. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, then let's see the... Ooh, there we go. The wider angles. Those are really nice. So I really like this one. I can do some... This one is even better for me. That's too much smoke. I love this one. And I just like the little one also. I don't know why Anouk wanted me to take that one out. Love this one. Okay, here we have the one with the colors. And it's okay, but it's not spectacular. And this is from the front. And I think the fronts are a little bit more boring actually. So I do like this one. Too much smoke. Too clean. This was where we were setting up the lighting. Okay, so let's go back. And let's see what we got. So we got this one. And I do like the small guitar on top. In this case, it doesn't make any sense. So we can take that out in Photoshop. So let's go to Photoshop, Ctrl D. And let's let content-aware fill do its magic. And guys, if you are watching this, let me know if you like what we do today instead of the model work. Now, don't worry, I am a model photographer, so we will be doing model photography, of course. But sometimes it's also cool, of course, to do something else. So just let me know in the comments below if you like this episode. Because we are doing this for you guys. And a little bit for myself. What can I say? I love my work. Okay. It's a little bit sloppy, but let's for now just do it like this. So I'm now using content-aware fill in Photoshop. And with content-aware fill, you sometimes have to do it a few times. And then in the end, you end up doing it manually if it doesn't work right. But most of the time, it does an amendable, very good job. Let me put it that way. Okay. The rest we're going to do manually. Let's just take the clone tool. And I'm not going to do it at 100%, but probably at 68. And the reason for this is I want to blend it out just a little bit. And it's like paint. It's like if you press a few times, it will actually stack up. Now I'm feeling a little bit like a young Bob Ross. If you don't know Bob Ross, make sure you check him out if you are really into the mood of falling asleep or having a lot of fun with, well, whatever you used to have fun with. Cool. Okay. Nice. Let's just go this back into Capture One in a moment. Close, save. Okay, let's go back to Capture One. Let's see what we have more. So that one we have. This one we also have to take something out. So this is also going to be Photoshop. It's always with me. If I have to take something out, I go to Photoshop. If I don't have to take anything out, I stay in the raw converter. I call it lazy. I just think it's smart. Because if you can do it in the raw converter, why not? And by the way, if you saw the new Lightroom CC, they have a new structure slider. That's absolutely stunning for skin work. I did a video on it. I will leave that also in the description below. How you can do amazing skin retouching now in Lightroom. And that's, by the way, what triggered this whole movement for me towards a mobile workflow, towards the workflow with the iPad Pro, and before that with the Huawei tablet, the Android, is that structure slider. One slider changed it all. For the very simple reason, now you can finally do proper skin work in Lightroom. And that's a first time ever. We could do it in Capture One, but Capture One isn't on the iPad or any other tablet. Okay, this looks nice. File close. So I'm only using Photoshop at the moment to clean up my shots. Same thing here, Ctrl D. And this one we also crop a little bit, and we're going to make that, that spot a little bit brighter. Let me show you that. Because I also want to show you guys something new, of course. Okay. So what you see now is the stand, actually. So let's take that out. So let's do it with the lasso tool. If there are any questions in between and a week, just let me know. I guess not.
No.
Okay. So here we have something. Okay, now this big blob in the sky, that doesn't look right? Okay, so let's do that a little bit differently. So let's create a new layer. And there we go. And on that new layer, I'm just going to take a brush with white paint. And that white paint, I'm going to make sure that it's around this size. So I'm just going to fill it up. There we go. That looks already a lot better. Okay, layer, flatten image. Now I want that red and that blue to be a little bit more into the shot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a new layer. And I'm going to take a big brush with blue. I'm going to choose the blue that I like, and I'm just going to paint it all over here. There we go. A little bit over the guitar maybe. There we go. A little bit here. And join your little friends on the bottom. There we go. Now for the other side we do red. Now it looks incredibly creative, of course. Don't worry. We're going to go to color mode, or maybe we go to luminosity or hue saturation. Let's just see what we like. What's that weird shadow? Or soft light. I think soft light is even better. Okay, now blur the heck out of that layer. Gaussian blur on maximum settings. There we go. This takes a little while. Okay, now see before and after, really nice. And now just level it. So start at 0 and go to hero. There we go, really like this. Okay, layer flatten image. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's a little bit more attention to the guitar and the fox and not to the rest. So I'm going to create a new layer. And in that layer, I'm actually going to fill it with a neutral gray. But before I can do that, I have to put it on soft light, then fill with neutral gray. That soft light is important, otherwise this doesn't work. So press OK. Okay, let's go into my selection tool or marquee tool. And just do, let's just make it really tight. So do this, select, modify feather. And then just go to, let's say 500 pixels, why not? Select inverse, and then just take a paint bucket with black paint. Just drop it in. There we go. And now we have a little bit more of a vignetting, and it draws the attention more towards the guitar and to the Fox amplifier. Love this. Really, really like this. Wow. Totally happy with myself now. Cool. Okay. That's the cool thing. If you do stuff that you normally don't do, it really makes you enthusiastic about your work. And that's very important. Because let's be honest, work is work, but it should be fun too. Okay, let me see. I have 1, 2 more. Okay, let's do those quick, because I don't want to keep you guys too long. Let me first see which one I like best, because I don't need 2 of those. I think, oh, this is difficult. I think this one has too much smoke and this one is right. So this one is too much. This one is right. Okay, so let's take this one. Control D. Okay, let's make this also into a more square. There we go. Top part will crop just a little bit towards. There we go. Okay. Do we need to take anything out? No. Okay, let's make that smoke stand out a little bit more. So let's go to Filter, Topaz Studio. There we go with the Topaz Studio again. Again, it's a really, really cool plugin. Annemiek, are any questions on Facebook?
No.
Okay, cool. Facebook is quiet today. Normally we have a lot of questions on Facebook, but I think it's maybe the subject that people just enjoy watching. Or not. Okay, let's give it a little bit more bite. Oh, I really like this. Not too much. Go from 0 all the way up till you see what you like. There we go. Nice. Layer flatten image. And of course we want to make that circle again. So layer new. And I always flatten my images. A lot of people tell me, Frank, that's wrong. But how can you be wrong if it's your own workflow? So I just like doing it that way. There we go. And I just don't like seeing that strobe there. So that's why we do this. Okay, and do the same thing again with that paint with light layer. So we have that neutral gray layer on soft light. And again, use your selection tool. They call it marquee. And just do this. There we go. Select, modify feather again, 500. That's something I always use, 500. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the shot. And just fill it. Oops. Make sure you do inverse. Okay, and just fill it. There we go. And it's not much, you know, it's just a little bit. If you want it more, you can just duplicate that layer. But I think this is way too obvious. And if you want to blend that more, you can also blur that layer, of course. But in this case, just leave it like this. Okay, layer, flatten image. Looks absolutely stunning. Close. Okay, final shots, and then we're going to show you the final tinting. So bear with me. And that's actually this one. Just open it up in Photoshop and close it, because I don't have to do anything on this one. But I need it in a different directory. Close. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go back to Capture One, and we're going to use the tinting from Capture One. That's why I need it in a different directory. So go to the output location, and there we go. Okay, so now go to my tintings, and I think something like Cold Steel is amazing for this. And again, these presets are for sale, and they are not expensive at all. We don't like expensive stuff. Well, I do like expensive stuff, but I don't like charging. I do like charging, but I don't think it's fair. Anyway, they're cheap. Okay, let's just open the saturation just a little bit. There we go. Look at this. Wow. Love it. And this I can copy to the next few shots, I think. Let's just adjustments, copy and apply. There we go. Looks absolutely stunning. Now this one I don't like at all compared to this one, to be honest. I'm just going to keep it, but it's not my favorite shot anymore. I love this one with the little guitar. And I love this one. Awesome. Great shots, I think. Just for a day. Yeah, why not? Okay, let's go back to this camera. Okay. For today, everything you wanted to know about photographing your guitar, I hope. So the idea from today was actually to show you images that are created not only for selling guitars, but more for giving that lifestyle. Now, you can do this with every single product. Whatever you want to sell, if the image is nice, you will have an easier sell. So I think if you put something like this online, people will actually buy it easier because the images are great. There is one very, very big disadvantage. Sometimes when you put something like this online, people will actually mail you like, hey, do you have a real shot? Yeah, these are the real shots. No, you stole those from internet. Those are professional shots. And you go like, yeah, I made them. No. I want a shot, you know, so sometimes that can be a little bit of a problem. I heard that in America, actually, there were some people that picked up their photographs from the local chemist, and they didn't get the photos because they were not allowed to do professional copies. So the guy actually didn't believe that the guy took the shots himself. He thought that they were copies. So be careful when you do a little bit too much professional work, but overall, just go over the top, just do it, it's fun. Okay, anyway, do we have some important dates? Yes, we have a very, very important date. September 1st, New York City, Long Island City. One of the workshops that you don't want to miss. I kid you not, if you're going to see the behind the scenes video from this workshop, you're going to just freak out if you didn't visit it. We have an amazing studio with continuous lighting and strobes. So we're going to bring our Hansel strobes to the studio, and we have continuous lighting in that studio. We have a stunning model, literally drop dead gorgeous, which you're going to shoot with me. And we are going to mix everything together. We're going to mix strobes, gels, continuous lighting. We have an amazing model that can do glamour and fashion. And it's going to be a jam-packed workshop, trust me. It's going to be a small group between 5 and 10 people, not more, for the very simple reason I like that one-on-one communication. And thanks to one of our sponsors, the price is now $299 for a small group workshop, full day, 10 till 4. And again, you can't afford to miss that one. You're going to freak out if you see the images. I'm already looking forward to it. September 11th, we have a digital classroom with small flash. That will be the first time we're going to be showing those Nissin strobes. So look out for that one. October 26th, if you're in the Netherlands, make sure you check out our open house. It's free. It's only in the morning from 10 till 1. And you have to email us if you want to come, but everybody's welcome. Again, it's free. You get some nice drinks. You see a demonstration with a model, lighting setups. I'm going to do a small A to Z workshop, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And this is really cool. If you live in the Netherlands, in October, my new book will be out. And the new book is called We Don't Know Yet. Now, that's not the title of the book, but we're still fighting about the title. And what is the book about? You know Mastering the Model Shoot, right? Mastering the Model Shoot, I think, is one of the best books I ever written. It's the third book I ever wrote, but anyway, so that's easy. But it's a really cool book. But the book focuses on everything that's in front of the camera lens. So in other words, the model, the styling, the lighting, the styling of the set, how to approach your model, how to do everything to make that photo shoot successful. The new book is focused on everything behind the lens. So it's all about, okay, so what is lighting? How does lighting work? How do you control your lighting? What do you do with your lighting? What are angles? But most of all, do you want to get your own studio? If you want to get your own studio, this is the book for you, because we're going to start in the smallest room, literally in the restrooms, the toilet. Yes, the first chapter is all about shooting in a toilet. It's a very short chapter, by the way. And after that, we're going to go bigger. Living room, garage, attic, a whole house dedicated as a photo studio, some really cool tips. Then we're going to go to an anti-squatters building. I don't know if you know what I mean, but those are buildings that are empty and they need people in there because otherwise they will be squatters in there. So it's a very cheap solution, but there are a lot of things to think about. Then we go to our own building. What do you do? Do you rent it out? Do you do workshops? So it's everything actually behind the camera. So mastering the model shoot before, in front of the lens, this book behind the lens. But don't worry, there are a ton of, I wanted to say shitload, but I can't say, oh, I already did. Anyway, there are so many information in that book about also lighting and setting up your lighting for your models and using walls. So it's also a lighting book about model photography. So you're absolutely gonna love it. At the moment, it's only in Dutch. And we hope it will be translated, of course, in English, Chinese, traditional Chinese, and Czech, like mastering the model shoot. And maybe Russian. Hey, who knows? Anyway, that was it, I think, for today. Anouk, do you have anything to say? I will point the camera towards you, my dear.
Follow us on YouTube.
Yeah, if you don't follow us on YouTube yet, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that like button, because we really like that. And most of all, tell other people about our channel so we can grow. Thank you so very much for Rogue and BenQ for sponsoring Digital Classroom and making everything possible.
Oh.
Digital Classroom is literally my dream come true, because I love teaching, and let's be honest, this is the nicest way to teach with you guys in a chat room. We can chat about photography, you can ask questions, and I can show you stuff that I love to do. So Digital Classroom is absolutely awesome. Thank you so very much, BenQ and Rogue. And Anouk, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, please send in your photos for a photo critique.
Please send in your photos for the photo critique, because next time, of course, we're going to do a photo critique, and maybe next time when we're back from South Africa and New York, we're going to do a seminar on small flash, of course, and after that one on travel and street photography. I'm going to tell you the stories that we experienced in Johannesburg and, of course, Vegas and New York. For now, I'm signing off. Thank you so very much to Brian and Anouk for helping us out, and we'll see you again next time. I think I'm going to play some guitar, because I have an iRig in. I'm going to put it on my iPad Pro, put the volume on infinity, and annoy the heck out of Anouk.
We have to clean up first, Frank.
Oh, no, you have to clean up. It's not my job. Bye, guys.